another episode of Behind the Reel. Today we have a very special guest with us, the person that you definitely need to go to for your scripts coverage. So I want to welcome Rhee, Dolly. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes. Definitely been looking forward to having this conversation with you. You definitely helped me a lot because I was super green, still super green in the game. And you definitely helped me with your coverage over my very first pilot. So I want to definitely jump into this conversation by just introducing yourself and letting everybody know what it is you do and tell us all about Dolly Real Productions.
Oh man. Okay. So Rhee Dolly. I am a story consultant, script analyst, script coverage person, script doctor, whatever the heck you want to call me. I'm your girl. So Dolly Real Productions, I am the brainchild behind that. Basically I formed it out of really just taking a leap. I had finished my script coverage course and I was like, all right, let's go. And then it took me a week to come up with the name because I had all these other wild names that didn't have my name in it. And it's like, well, everything you do, you're kind of enmeshed in it. So why not just enmesh your name in what you do? And so Dolly Real Productions. It will eventually be a fully fledged production company, but right now it's just starting in the ground floor with script consulting and such. So, but it's been an amazing ride, and I can't believe I've already been doing this for a year.
You've been busy.
Yeah, I really have. I'm here, and I'm a better script consultant because of it. So, yeah.
I don't want to underestimate the value of a script analyst, especially even if you're a veteran in the game or a newcomer like I was. Because when I sent in my script for you to cover and I got the feedback, my mind was blown. I'm like, I thought I knew what I was doing until I realized that I had no clue what I was doing. So it's so important to have someone who understands formatting, who understands structure, and all of the things that help writers with their development, whether it's wanting to get a show developed, whether it's wanting to get staffed as a writer. So I definitely appreciate your service and looking forward to where Dolly Real Production goes.
It's been incredible because you learn something different each time you read a script, whether that's through formatting or, oh, I didn't know I could do it this way. And it really gives me the tools to help writers make their stuff better. I don't believe in withholding information from people or intentionally telling people something wrong just to throw them off the set. Like if I know something and it's going to make you better faster, then I'm going to do it. Like no one's my competition. If I kind of view script doctors as like trying different churches. You get something different out of wherever you go, and eventually you find the right combination of whatever you need to succeed.
Let me ask you this. At what stage do you suggest that writers approach a script doctor or a script analyst for coverage? At what stage of the writing process?
Definitely after it's written, like after it's completely written in its entirety, no matter how bad it is or how bad you think it is or how good you think it is, whether it's first draft or fifth draft or whatever. Each time you complete a draft, go to a script doctor. It doesn't have to be somebody super experienced. It can even just be a friend that you trust who knows what they're doing in terms of screenwriting. Because what you don't want to do is send it to a regular writer who has never looked at a script, knows nothing about script formatting, and they're like, oh, well, maybe you should do this and try to explain it this way. No. Because that will get you into a world of hurt. But I definitely, each time you finish a draft, because if you just present to me like a proof of concept, I can't really do anything with that. If you present me 5 pages, it's hard to know where to direct you if I don't have the full picture. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about subtext, because this is something that we talked about when we were working together, and it's a term that we hear often thrown around, like in the screenwriting world. But how important is it when you're writing to have subtext, without it being like so on the nose or so obvious, or like over explaining? I forget the actual name. You could probably tell me, but when you're
Over exposition.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so subtext is very, very important. It's crucial to a screenplay. If you have a screenplay that's full of on the nose dialogue, it's going to suffer greatly. So subtext literally is the thing that people aren't saying or doing. That's literally all it is. So if you watch people like, and I'm sure you yourself even have seen this in real life, right? You're watching a couple that you ship from afar, right? Because we don't want to be creepy and be up in their business, right?
Right.
You're watching a couple from afar do this dance, and you know what the dance is if you've ever been attracted to somebody, right? So you're watching them do this dance, and you're sitting there on the sideline going, "Oh my God, kiss him already!" Right? That's on the nose, but it's the lead, it's the buildup. That is the subtext. That's very important, because if you don't have the buildup, you're gonna have this awkward on the nose thing that nobody
Mm-hmm.
wants.
I think about that too in a lot of rom-coms, because I am like the cheesy person that does enjoy
Mm-hmm.
most rom-coms.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like that was a perfect example that you gave. That's when you usually see it. Or like big action movies or action shows where you're trying to figure out what the conflict is without over explaining, why this in a drama, why this person is mad or has beef with such and such and such and such. Um, yeah, I think subtext is very important. And I think a good way, at least the way that I'm teaching myself about subtext, is to keep watching shows, to read more scripts
Mm-hmm.
and compare. Once I watch the show and then read the script, say, oh, okay, I see how they did that. Because
Mm-hmm.
it is hard. Like I can be very long-winded. That's just natural person I am when it comes to the gift of gab. And so
Mm-hmm.
I find myself translating that into my writing sometimes, of feeling like I have to over explain. So that was something that you definitely gave me, that I figured could help other writers, who are also struggling with too much or making every line a monologue, which was like my
Mm-hmm.
problem when I first started.
It was mine too before I knew what I was doing. So we all go through that, and it's very important to not to beat yourself up for whatever stage you're at,
Mm-hmm.
um, because it's a learning process, and no one sits you down and teaches you how to write a script or how to put in perfect, like you it's something you just learn through trial and error. So no, don't be hard on and I honestly, this woman is like one of the most naturally talented people I've ever seen, so I don't even know what she's talking about, like,
Oh, I'm like, what are
for
you
real.
talking about?
You talking about
No,
you
thank you.
talking about you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I
But
appreciate
no,
that.
that's for because I don't, I don't say that about just anybody, so
I appreciate
um
that.
but no,
You
for
know, I'm
real, you're
constantly
you're
learning.
amazing.
You're amazing. I'm constantly learning, and that's another tip. Like when I bring guests on, one thing that I also like to stress is that it is so important to meet people and make genuine connections with people, like especially in this field, like people who you can help grow, people who can help you grow. That's something that's very, very important. So um, I'm super grateful for our connection. I do want to talk about just your journey of getting to this point. Did you start out as a writer? Are you currently writing? Like, how did you get into um, scripts and being a scripts analyst?
Oh boy. Okay. I'll try not to talk
Take
everybody's
us
ear
through
off
that
about this
journey.
part. Okay. So back in good old 2016, Rhee Dolly was a neuroscience major at Muskingum University, which is deep in Appalachian, Ohio.
I'm sorry, did you say neuroscience?
Neuroscience. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I was set on becoming the foremost neurosurgeon this country's ever seen because of go big or go home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't work because I was failing chemistry, and not even like organic, like general
Oh,
chemistry. And that is, and for those who are not familiar, general chemistry is the course that pretty much weeds you out. So if you are not passing Gen Chem, you will not do well in all the other chemistry related things, and you basically you'll kill someone. And so they're like, yeah, no, you're not going to be a doctor. It sucks to be you, right? And so so, you know, after chemistry lab every week, I was like calling my mother crying, talking about, you know, I'm failing, that whole shtick. And she's like, okay, first of all, what even are you saying about, what are you doing? You're a writer. Like, I don't even know who you're trying to impress here. And I was like, oh, you right. So then
shout out to moms for knowing.
I know. So she'd be knowing the whole time. And then the next day, this was like before, you know, I was really convinced that I was going to make this work, because I had failed the first exam, but I'd been studying to the point where I was ignoring all of my other classes. And so I was like, all right, let's go. We got this. So the chemistry professor, in the way that chemistry professors do, they're, you know, have these lofty ideals of chemistry equations and things like that. So he's happily writing on the board. The rest of us are panicking, like you do in classes like that. And so I'm furiously scribbling what I thought was the equation. I looked down. It was not the equation. It was a sentence. And it said, "This is not who you are, not anymore." And I was like, oh, well, okay. Because at that point I'd been sleepwalking a lot.
Wow.
And I found out it was my body physically rejecting being a doctor. That's what that was about. And so the very next day I went to the chemistry professor. I said, listen, doctor, I don't remember his name. I was like, listen, dude, I can't do this anymore. And he's like, oh, I know. I was just waiting for you to tap out. I'm like, okay, cool. So then I went to the English department, and I basically forced this woman, her name is Dr. Jane Varley. I forced her to be my advisor. She just doesn't know that I forced her. I have that way about me. So she became my advisor. I started writing in full force again. And I say again, because before I chose neuroscience, I was a writer. And then I found that when I let the science part go, everything came flooding back. And I was like, oh, it was supposed to be easy this whole time. Shit.
I just need you to write a whole TV series about this if you have not.
I do. I really do.
Please.
So then, you know, I started excelling at English, and my mom was like, told you this whole time, but you hard-headed. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, thank you for that. I worked in textbook publishing for 3-ish years-ish. Yeah. And then August of 2019, I'm sitting at my desk minding my Black-owned business, of course. And I get this call. My boss comes in. I knew something was up because my other boss came in a day early. And she's one of those, like, she works from home and comes in once a week, that sort of deal. And I was like, hey, girl, how you doing? And so she sets up and gets settled in. Next thing I know, I'm being pulled into a Zoom call, basically being told that my department's being dissolved and I'm being let go. And you want to know what the first thing I said was? I said, and I quote, uh-oh. That's what I said. Uh-oh. Fast forward to a month of me basically recovering from the high stress I'd been under, because up at that point I was feeling like very suicidal. I was working long hours. It was awful. Very isolated, being put a lot of pressure on, and then to find that I'd been released from that, and it was so freeing. So I spent that month sleeping and recovering, as one does. And one day, I don't know how it happened. I don't remember signing up for emails or whatever, but I got this email that said, do you like reading? Do you like reading scripts? Do you like movies? And I'm like, well, yeah, because up at that point, I'd been kind of dabbling in screenwriting. So I was like, let's just check this out. Let's see how this goes. So I go to the info session, and it's run by, it's through Hollywood Gatekeepers, and then the paid course is called Hollywood Screenreaders. And it's ran by these two people who have been in the industry for over 20 years. They work with James Cameron, they've worked with all the big names. So totally legit. And by the time they're done with the presentation, they ask you the more professional version of, do you want to get on the spaceship? Of course I want to get on the spaceship. What kind of question is that? Are you high? Like what? No. And so I forced myself to go through this course in 2 months. And there are people who had been in there for like 3 years and haven't finished. And so I forced myself to go through this course, and I'm learning, and I'm like, oh, and everything I'm doing starts to click. I'm like, oh, that's why I did it this way. I didn't know that that was a thing. So it was one of those, I was doing things before I knew what they were called or whatever. So then I finished the course. I started, and then in January of 2020 was when I started putting together Dolly Real Productions. And then I just started going to different webinars and like basically saying, hi, I'm Rhee Dolly, I'm a script consultant. If you have scripts you want me to read, I'm your girl, send to me. And I asked, and the universe was like, bet, and then delivered script on script on script on script.
Gotta be
And then I
careful
just
what you
sort of
pray for,
really,
girl.
I know. And then I polished, I basically, it was basically a trial by fire year for me. Like everything I was doing, I was like, I don't know if this is right. I'm hoping that they're receptive to this information. Lots of anxiety going on. And then people were like, oh my God, what you're saying makes sense. And I'm like, oh, thank God. Cause I don't know if, I don't know if this is helpful. But yeah, it's been very much a whirlwind, and I feel like I've just blinked and now I'm here. Because I haven't really had a break since I started, which I'm not complaining about, but it's self-care and taking care of it's I'm already bored thinking about it, but it's a thing apparently that we
Yeah.
have to do. So, but yeah, that is the journey of Rhee Dolly.
I was so locked in. First of all, when you said neuroscience, kudos to you. Because I would never. I had a dream of being a pediatric surgeon when I was like 14. And then I got into ninth grade biology. Done. Chemistry was like always my favorite subject because I like math. So chemistry was never like an issue. But biology, you want me to memorize meiosis, mitosis, halitosis. I can't tell you the difference between any of those. Not for me. So kudos to you for even getting to college and going that route. I'm even more proud of you for realizing that you were supposed to be doing something else. And shout out to moms for giving you that little extra light and telling you, girl, who are you fooling? Let this go.
Yeah, she was just like, it was just so funny. Like she was just like, I don't, why, first of all, why are you crying? Second of all, just get it together. And third of all, why don't you just like do writing? Like, like she's just very shockingly cavalier, very nonchalant. It's so funny.
You see what happens when you do what you're supposed to be doing? The universe blesses you.
I know. It's magic. It has been magical.
Yeah, that there are a lot of people that do have that same story or in the thick of it, right? In the thick of it right now, trying to figure out like, my parents really want me to be a surgeon or a doctor or a lawyer or a bank teller, and I really want to be an actor or an actress or a writer. How do I do that? Yeah. Okay, so now that you're here and you talked about what your plans are for the future of your company, how do you translate that into what's happening in the industry right now? Because we did sort of gloss over, you know, being of color working in this industry and that being a thing, especially trying to be an entrepreneur and trying to figure out, you already know what your lane is, but also trying to figure out like how to navigate now this big space that's still trying to figure out what diversity and inclusion really looks like. So how has that been for you trying to navigate a more mainstream space within this industry, especially not living in, Hollywood?
It's definitely been a challenge, but it's one of those, I've never been afraid of a fight. I learned very early on, just with life in general, that no one's going to hand you things. No one's going to offer you a seat at the table. And so what you have to do is set up camp when no one's looking, right? That's how you go behind enemy lines. You act like you're there to do things for them, but really you're there to do things for yourself. So I've had opportunities where I thought, wow, okay, this is really going to be my foot in the door to the mainstream. And then each time I get the thanks for playing letter or the rejection letter. I call them thanks for playing letters. Try again, not yet. Uh, so it has been a challenge, but I don't let that deter me, because the way I see it is I'm carving out my own path. And in carving out your own path, you can't look for people to hand you opportunity and say, I want you. You have to show them, look at what you've been missing this whole time. It's kind of like the toxic ex, where you don't necessarily want them back, right? But you're just, look at what you missed, look at what you've been missing, and I'm doing fine without you. It's one of those type things. Probably a bad analogy, but that's how I think of it.
To me, girl. I think most people can relate to that. So
but yeah, it's one of those two. It's like I think it's because I also planted the seed long ago that I never ever want to work for anyone else again. I never again want to have my merit based on somebody else saying this girl has talent. No, I'm going to carve out my own lane. I'm going to figure out what the heck I'm supposed to do. I'm going to build a team, and then I'm just going to do it myself. And then if big wigs want to be involved, they're going to have to pay me. It's that simple.
Yeah. Because you know what you're doing. You have a good heart, and you're genuinely here to help people, which is why I'm so glad that, for anybody watching this who's been looking for a script analyst, who didn't know who to go to or who to ask or where to find one, now you know of another one. I'm definitely going to link all of your information in the description box. I do just want to close out our interview with tips. So I always like to ask, normally I ask about any lessons that you've learned, but this time I kind of want to flip it. Since you've read so many scripts, I know that you have at least 3 tips for screenwriters, like 3 don'ts.
Okay. All right. Are you ready? Here we go.
Yes, run them off.
All right. Rule number 1, and this is direct from Ed Sullivan, who wrote Men in Black and Laverne and Shirley and all that. Rule number 1, do not edit your script in the same place you write it. The reason is because you have the same emotional cues when you're reading. So you're not going to catch glaring typos or plot holes or what have you. You're literally like, oh my God, this is the shit. And then you're going to submit it willy-nilly and then embarrass yourself. Don't do that. So my advice is to, write it where you normally write it, and then go sit at a park, go sit on your couch because COVID, or even sit in the bathtub if that fancies you, and just kind of look from afar. But
don't electrocute yourself.
Don't electrocute yourself. I'm not advocating for that. But read it in a place other than where you wrote it. It will do wonders for you. Tip number 2, it was a really good one. I blanked. Oh, if you, tip number 2 is to do 2 proofreading passes, one for grammar and one for formatting. So for grammar, typos, whatever, you can send it to literally any writer who knows their grammar and what they're doing, and have them look for typos, whatever. Then send it to somebody for the second pass, whether that's a script analyst or another screenwriter who knows what they're doing, who knows format. Send it to them so that they can make sure that you're formatting things properly. Because as somebody who reads for contests, I can tell you that if your script is not formatted properly, aka in a script writing software thing, it's not going to go to the next round. I'm going to say, no, this does not go to the next round. And then I will list my reasons professionally why it didn't go. So that's tip number 2. And then tip number 3, know your genre and know it well. So let's say, for example, you're writing a sci-fi script, right? You need to develop it properly. a lot of people think that just because it's sci-fi, you can do whatever you want to do. No, you can't. Sci-fi is the strictest genre because you have to know the rules of the world, the problems of that world, the loopholes of that world, and basically how you're going to save the day, so to speak. It takes every bit of planning. Just watch a Marvel movie, right? It takes every ounce of planning to fully execute what's going to happen. Because if you send me a script where, I'll give you an example. This is one of the worst I've ever read. This monk guy, this is for AFF, Austin Film Festival. This monk guy gets ousted from his order, or whatever the heck it's called. Then he somehow gets sent into space. Stay with me. Then he's out there to meet his long lost future son that he, I guess, didn't know existed or whatever, and is somehow supposed to save the planet or what have you, and then is like adjusting to life on the spaceship. I had to read it twice because I didn't understand what the heck I was reading. All of that to say, do not send me a pile of sci-fi mush, because I'm going to look at you and be like, what did I just read? So know your genre very, very well. It will save you. It will save your life.
So that was Star Wars meets Star Trek meets the Karate Kid
meets Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah,
meets Guardians of the Galaxy.
I'm seriously sitting there going, I wanted to like this story. I did. But man, bro, what did you give me?
You lost me with the monk in space with the long lost son.
Yeah,
I was taken out.
No, I was like, I what even is this? What did I just read?
Now, monks in space, that could be kind of cool. Like if that was a story.
Right. But if
he didn't start on space and then got thrusted into space.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's not what happened. And I'm just okay. All right.
Now cool. You don't rewrite scripts too. Like I want to make that clear. That's not your.
No, I do.
You do.
I do now. People have started requesting it. And I have to say I'm actually very good at it, because like one of my clients, I did one for them, and then they sent it to one of their mentors who's like a big name in the industry. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, they really liked your changes. I'm like, of course they like my changes. What are you talking about?
Right.
So yes, I do rewrites now. I do.
Okay. Well, I'm glad. I wanted to ask that. I'm glad that was a distinction. My spirit tells me that you have 2 more don'ts in you.
Okay. Do not send your script into a film contest, whatever. Do not send it in any other format but script writing software. Okay. I kid you not. I have had people send scripts in Word format, not even the script template in Word, actual Word format.
Like an essay.
Yeah. And then they had like the people, like, like the characters, like all formatted to it. It is a nightmare to read. It's impossible to tell, like, because some contests want to know approximately how long the script runs, for like a movie. They want to know that approximately. I can't tell them that because I don't know, right? So because the general rule is it's a minute per page. That's the general rule. It doesn't always work that way, of course, but that's the general rule. Lastly, the other one is do not put any of your identifying information on your script. This is very serious, okay? So like you've gotten, you registered it with the WGA, you've proofread it, you've, done everything you need to do, crossed your whatever. Take a look at your title page before you submit it. Aside from the title, does it have anything other than just the script title? If it has the WGA registration, if it has your phone number, address, whatever, it will be disqualified. It depends on the contest, but it will be disqualified. And they're very serious about that. For Austin Film Festival, I don't think that's an issue. Typically, when someone doesn't follow directions, I literally just have to say, hey, I can't read this script. It needs to be reassigned. And they're like, cool, whatever. I know this for a fact. The Warner Media application that just passed, they said it will disqualify you if you have any information about yourself on the script.
Can I ask why? I know that that's a thing. So but why is that?
The reason is because they want to keep it as unbiased as possible, right? Because you never know who you know in the industry, or wow, this name looks familiar. Then you find out, oh crap, I did read this, and now I can't be unbiased because now I really want them to win. That's the scenario.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so they want to keep it as unbiased as possible. I don't know if they've had issues in the past of like people, playing favorites or whatever, but they definitely want to keep it as unbiased as possible. If you have your information on the script, obviously we can't be unbiased, right? So yeah, that is a big one. And that one, I get really irritated when people don't read the rules properly, because you got yourself disqualified over nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Over some, especially after I know that person has put in the work for this script, and it's like, now I can't even read it, I can't even help you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I didn't know that that was a thing, but like even
yeah,
outside of contests, um, or fellowships, you still can't put your name and thing like stuff on things. I was told, but I how you explain it is a way nicer explanation in my mind, just because I'm always like going to the dark place. I'm like,
right.
they probably don't want you to do that, because if they end up taking your idea, it's harder to prove that it was your idea if your
and
name is
that's
not on it.
and that's not to say that's not to say that that doesn't happen. It absolutely does. But of course, if you can prove you registered it and or
Mm-hmm.
copyrighted it or have done both or whatever, that's usually a good protection point. But that's the official reasoning
Yeah.
behind it. So it's just like, come on, you spent all this time on your applications.
Reading is fundamental.
Just
After all, we are
yeah,
writers. You gotta
yeah.
read.
Just oh, and then I'll do one more. I'll do
Okay.
one more. This is a do. Have your dang script ready. Because like, you'd be surprised how many writers come in and they just don't have their script done, and it's like, I'm sorry, the deadline is when, and you want me to help you now? Hmm?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's
So how
like
much time would you say? I know it's all different and it conditional, but like let's say I know the HBO one or Warner Media one just passed, which by the way I was going to submit to. We have to talk about that off camera.
Mhm.
Uh, but let's say that there's another fellowship coming up in 2 weeks, and I have a script that I want to send in to you. How much time realistically would you need, or do you normally tell your clients just to be safe?
So it depends if we're working together long term, but usually if it's long term, I need something weekly from you. If
Okay.
it's you're submitting to a contest that you have in mind, I need at least like a week's notice just to get yourself, like, to help you get in shape for it.
Okay.
With something like the Warner Bros application that's coming up, for that one, you do have to write a spec script as part of the application. So you
Mm-hmm.
need to choose the show ASAP. If you want my help on it, you need to tell me the show ASAP so that I can familiarize myself with it if I haven't seen it. Because that is a whole different breed.
Can you just go into a spec script? Because that was the one thing that confused the hell out of me when I first jumped into this. Like, I know it's
Yeah,
short for
yeah,
speculation, but is it always based on a show that's already out?
yeah. So you never ever want to spec a show that's not currently running, because I guess I don't, and this could be me making it up, but I think the reasoning behind that is everything that has already happened in that universe possibly has already happened, and so there's nothing
Gotcha.
new you could add. So you want to always spec a show that's currently running, and basically spec scripts are fan fiction for TV and movies. That's basically just what they are. Um, and so they're becoming less common, but basically the point of a spec script is to demonstrate that you can write in that show's tone and voice or whatever. Basically, that you can follow whatever pattern has been set for that show, because every show is different. Every pattern, it has a different pattern and such.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really the point of spec scripts. I'm not sure why some contests still have you write spec scripts. Frankly, I think that's a waste of time. But I guess if you want to get staffed on that show, you have to show that you're able to write in that person's voice, which whatever. But anyway.
Is it always better to do a spec script on a show that only has one season? Or because you never want to do it on a show that's like finished, right? Or that's been canceled?
Right. Right. So I would say, like, if it's been long running, like,
Like a Grey's Anatomy.
Like Grey's Anatomy.
Mhm.
Yeah. Which at this point it's very easy to do a spec script because as we know, they tend to recycle plot lines. I love that show. No one come for me. I do love that show.
Everybody dies.
But it's like, yeah, it's like they literally recycle the same plot lines because the show has been running for so long. So there's really nothing else that can be done. So it's yeah. But back to the original point, yeah, I need time.
Okay. Good deal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Rhee. That was so much good information. I know that I said we're going to wrap it up, and then I started having my own questions like, wait, this is good information because what the hell is a spec script and why do we need it? But you answered that. So thank you for that because I'm sure I was not the only one.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been lovely seeing your beautiful face and chatting with you. Yes, curls are popping. Love it. Make sure that y'all check out Dolly Real Productions. She knows what she's talking about. If that was not evident in our conversation today, find out for yourself. Again, we worked together. She's definitely helped me. So I, again, just super glad that we can have this conversation. If you haven't seen any of the other behind the reels, definitely make sure that you subscribe so that you can stay connected as we bring in more amazing guests like my dear friend Rhee. And any final words, Rhee?
Thank y'all for being here and hope to see you around.
Yes. Stay safe. And we'll be back with another episode next week. To a spec script because that was the one thing that confused the hell out of me when I first jumped into this. Like, I know it's short for speculation, but is it always based on a show that's already out?
Yeah. So you never ever want to spec a show that's not currently running because I guess and this could be me making it up, but I think the reasoning behind that is everything that has already happened in that universe possibly has already happened. And so there's nothing new you could add. So you want to always spec a show that's currently running. And basically spec scripts are fan fiction for TV and movies. That's basically just what they are. And so they're becoming less common, but basically the point of a spec script is to demonstrate that you can write in that show's tone and voice or whatever. Basically that you can follow whatever has, pattern has been set for that show because every show is different. Every pattern, it has a different pattern and such. So that's really the point of spec scripts. I'm not sure why some contests still have you write spec scripts. Frankly, I think that's a waste of time. But I guess if you want to get staffed on that show, you have to show that you're able to write in that person's voice, which whatever. But anyway.
Is it always better to do a spec script on a show that only has one season? Or because you never want to do it on a show that's like finished, right? Or that's been canceled?
Right. So I would say like if it's been long running, like
a Grey's Anatomy.
Like Grey's Anatomy. Yeah. Which at this point it's very easy to do a spec script because as we know, they tend to recycle plot lines. I love that show. No one come for me. I do love that show.
Everybody dies.
But it's like, yeah, it's like they literally recycle the same plot lines because the show has been running for so long. So there's really nothing else that can be done. So it's, yeah. But back to the original point, yeah, I need time.
Okay. Good deal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Rhee. That was so much good information. I know that I said we're going to wrap it up, and then I started having my own questions like, wait, this is good information because what the hell is a spec script and why do we need it? But you answered that. So thank you for that because I'm sure I was not the only one.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been lovely seeing your beautiful face and chatting with you. Yes, curls are popping. Love it. Make sure that y'all check out Dolly Real Productions. She knows what she's talking about. If that was not evident in our conversation today, find out for yourself. Again, we worked together. She's definitely helped me. So I, again, just super glad that we can have this conversation. If you haven't seen any of the other behind the reels, definitely make sure that you subscribe so that you can stay connected as we bring in more amazing guests like my dear friend Rhee. And any final words, Rhee?
Thank y'all for being here and hope to see you around.
Yes. Stay safe. And we'll be back with another episode next week.